On to the other big story we're tracking here on Republic TV, the story about Robert Vadra and Robert Vadra's land deals. Now, it was infamously called Damad Gate. Damad Gate. Damad Shri, as the BJP called him. It's about a deal where a company called Skylight gets a super sweet deal almost for free. Almost for free, no money paid. And it's the Enforcement Directorate which is saying it. Even the stamp duty. So if you buy property, ladies and gentlemen, you buy property and then you pay stamp duty. But in the case of Robert Vadra, his company's bank account had just 1 lakh rupees in them. The seller, the person who's selling the land, paid the stamp duty for Robert Vadra's company and then gave the land to Robert Vadra's company as well. So with absolutely nothing and just 1 lakh in the account, paid zero, got 58 crore rupees. That is Robert Vadra's deal of the century. The deal of the century, where even the seller paid stamp duty, and all of this has come out in the investigation. They got the property without paying a penny. So here's how it goes. So Robert Vadra is very influential, right? He is married to Priyanka Vadra, daughter of Sonia Gandhi, and Hooda was the chief minister of Haryana. Hooda gives a clearance for the land usage in 4 days. 4 days Robert Vadra gets a clearance and the land is already in his name. He doesn't pay a penny. And the landowners are so generous that they themselves pay the stamp duty for Robert Vadra. And Robert Vadra, without having any money in the company bank account, overnight gets property valued at 7.5 crore, which then becomes 58 crore in a few months. And boom, 0 to 58 crore in just a few months. And that is why Robert Vadra hates Republic TV, because we break down stories as they are. Vadra super deal. Take a look at how Robert Vadra got frazzled when questioned. The Vadra sequence. I want to play the Vadra sequence now that I just mentioned. I want to play the Vadra sequence. Listen into what Vadra said when we tried to question him. Something about Republic that he hates so much. Hates. And we love it.
इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो इसको हटाइए पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ रिपब्लिक हटाओ रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज़ है हटाइए आ जाइए आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो.
Okay, so very interesting details coming out as we look at the Enforcement Directorate investigation. And one of the aspects that has come out in this investigation is that at the time of transaction on the land in question in Shikhopur, Haryana, Robert Vadra's company had just 1 lakh rupees in its bank account. Now, these are details shared by the Enforcement Directorate. Let me tell you, this is the deal of the century, and this is why it's the deal of the century, right? Vadra's company Skylight had roughly 1 lakh rupees in its bank account at the time of the purchase. With 1 lakh balance, they managed to acquire the property which was valued at 7.5 crore rupees. So, story is about how 1 lakh balance in the bank turned into 58 crore at the end of a super sweet land deal. 1 lakh balance, 58 crore for Robert Vadra's Skylight Hospitality. Documents also show that Vadra's firms really had no money to acquire the land in the first place. They had no money. Even the stamp duty in 2008, and we're talking about 2008, the stamp duty was 45 lakh rupees, which also, of course, was not in that account at that point of time and was paid for by the seller, Omkareshwar Properties. Omkareshwar paid for the stamp duty, is what the Enforcement Directorate says, as part of its investigation into the Vadra land deal. I will go across to my colleague Shravan as well, who's joining us with the details of this Robert Vadra land deal. In fact, before I go across to Shravan, I want to play that sequence once again. And I want you to listen to how spooked Robert Vadra is when Republic Mike is just there in front of him. Yesterday, he said, "Inko hatao ya se." And then he also said, "Bahut ho gaya, inko nikalo." He just doesn't like Robert Vadra does not like Republic being around because he's scared of the questions. Listen in.
इसको हटाइए, पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ। रिपब्लिक हटाओ, पीछे। रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज है, हटाइए। आ जाइए, आप लोग क्यों इसको हटाइए, पीछे इस आदमी को हटाओ। रिपब्लिक हटाओ, पीछे। रिपब्लिक बिल्कुल नेगेटिव न्यूज है, हटाइए। आ जाइए, आप लोग क्यों धक्का दे रहे हो?
Okay, Shravan is joining us with the details. Shravan, has the ED actually said that he had no money in his account?
Well, in fact, Robert Vadra has been saying all this while that there is no evidence that has been gathered by the Enforcement Directorate. This has been going on for over a decade, and he does not know why exactly he is being called in for questioning. Now, that is what he says to everyone. And in fact, since we laid our hands on these documents, which goes on to indicate this, and the Enforcement Directorate, answering your question, Niranjan, specifically points out to this particular land deal. Let me just quickly explain what the ED is saying in these documents. One, that this deal that was between Skylight and a company called Omkareshwar, in fact, this was a deal for 3.5 acres land in Gurgaon, in Shikhopur. That's where the land deal was supposed to take place, worth about 5.5 crores. Turns out that Skylight Hospitality, a company that was floated by Robert Vadra, had just 1 lakh rupees. So they ended up not paying anything, at least for the first 6 months. And interestingly, the stamp duty was also not paid by Skylight. A company which had only 1 lakh rupees as a bank balance, how could they actually strike a deal with another company for 7.5 crore rupees? And secondly, even after taking the land, it is the seller which had to pay the stamp duty, and the stamp duty was around 45 lakh rupees. That money too wasn't paid as far as Enforcement Directorate is concerned from their investigation. The other point is that within 4 days of this land being handed over to Skylight, you had the then Chief Minister Bhupinder Hooda giving the license in just 4 days. What was supposed to be a process that could have taken 3 months. Typically, it would have taken 3 months, but this license was given in just 4 days. And it couldn't have been possible had it been any other ordinary citizen. It is only because he is, after all, the son-in-law, and the Chief Minister wanted to do a favor. So much so, an IS officer was shunted out because, as per this investigation, they say Hooda had clearly stated that the company does not have the financial technical capability, but solely on the ground that the company is owned by Robert Vadra.
Okay, thank you for that. I have some more breaking news coming in right now, Shravan. Exclusive details coming in from Karnataka of the cabinet meeting that was just held. In fact, this is a story breaking on Republic TV right now. On the caste census, there was a caste census, a very, very controversial caste census that was conducted by the Karnataka government, over which they had a cabinet meeting, and it appears like the caste census exercise has backfired completely, as different ministers belonging to the backward, Dalit and minority communities have clashed, disagreed with ministers from Vokkaliga and Lingayat communities. So Congress ministers themselves fighting it out in the cabinet meeting in Karnataka. In fact, at some point, the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah also had to advise ministers to maintain calm, discuss the issue peacefully. Hearing that Minister Mallikarjun strongly opposed the report, criticizing it for grouping hundreds of Muslim subsects under one category, exactly what Republic had reported. Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar also raised his voice. D.K. Shivakumar, likely to be the next Chief Minister of Karnataka, also raising his voice, opposing the report, stating bluntly that it is unacceptable. More and more leaders, ministers speaking out, saying that the caste census exercise of the Congress party is a flop. They tried to appease the minority community. They used that report to raise the reservation for minorities, especially and OBCs. Unlikely that it's going to go through, given how even Congress leaders are acting on it. That's it on this edition of This Is Exclusive.